The Force of Others, a Star Wars podcast.
Hello there, and welcome to The Force of Others. I'm Matt Beutner.
I'm Zachary Owen Turner.
And we would like to welcome you to Episode 6.
Woo.
We now have as many episodes of this podcast as there are episodes of George Lucas Star Wars.
George Lucas Star Wars, yes.
George Lucas Star Wars, yeah. It took them, what was it, almost 20 years?
Mm-hmm.
It took us 6 weeks.
Woo!
Which is not to imply that we are better, just that this is a far lower production quality than the original 6 Star Wars films.
And a lot cheaper to make.
So much cheaper to make, not even really comparable. But maybe one day we'll make that much money. Probably not. Anywho, Zach, how was your... We got a lot of stuff to talk about this week. I was about to ask you about your life, but let's talk about the show first, and then I'll get to you. So we got it's pretty slow news for Star Wars. I'm going to go ahead and knock on wood when I say that, because the last time we talked about that type of thing, they canceled the Acolyte right after we were done. But we got some little fun things to talk about, and then we have our first crossover episode. It's like the old comics and cartoons of like, this Saturday, a crossover.
We're going to have Don Knotts with Scooby-Doo. That actually happened.
It's true, it did. That's something that I did watch on a Saturday morning rerun. But no, it's not Don Knotts. It's the YouTube channel Tabletop Empire. We've got Nate Barber from that channel coming on our show, and we're going to talk about all things Star Wars role-playing games. But before we get into all that stuff, Zach, how was your week?
It was great. Again, slow news week Star Wars-wise, but I went to the Renaissance Festival in New York, so if you saw a space pirate there, that was me. I 3D printed this awesome glove that's based off of a Star Wars hand, so I had a little bit of Star Wars with me this weekend as I was perusing the Renaissance Festival. How was your week?
Right on. I didn't do any cosplaying that I can remember. Well, it's a busy work week right now for me, man. If you are in the Granbury, Texas area, which it is wildly likely that you absolutely are not.
I don't know. Listeners of this podcast might be.
That's probably true. Let's face it. Most of the listeners of this podcast are probably my students and their parents and, like, my family and your family. You know what I mean? That sounds like it's just your family that listens. Whatever. Anyway.
I have no friends.
It's not true. But for anybody that wants to come to the Granbury Opera House on September 20th, my next musical show that I'm directing, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, opens. And we are deep in rehearsals for that. So between that and everything that my academy's got going on, I'm a busy little guy. So there was very little Star Wars-y time this week. With the exception of, I'm really, really excited about Star Wars Outlaws.
Oh, me too.
No spoilers, but I keep seeing things that, this will be the second or third time I've said this on the podcast. I keep seeing things that confirm for me that I am going to buy a PlayStation 5. I'm going to try and be a good boy and wait for my Christmas bonus before I make this choice because it's expensive. But that game looks fun.
I also have to apologize to the viewers. I said that I was going to pre-order the game and have a review for you. Life got away from me, and I didn't realize there was $100 to pre-order it. So, because video games are getting expensive. But
so much of this show is us aging ourselves, but, like, good Lord, video games are expensive now.
Yeah.
Back in my day, it was a good $25.
Yeah. But we will have it eventually. I will have it eventually. Just gotta save up a little bit, and then we will have our full review. From me, at least, because I already have a PS5. I don't have the giant financial thing that Matt needs to do to get Outlaws.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait till probably like my Christmas bonus. You know,
Yeah.
We're gonna wait till Christmas time, and my Christmas gift will be to myself. Family deal. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So anyway, let's get into enough about us and being old. Let's get into Star. What were you gonna say?
No, I was going to make fun of you, but it's fine.
Go for it. It's fine.
I was like, let's get into Mandu and Grogu.
No, I made that mistake once. You can check out our our first of many blooper reels live on TikTok and on our YouTube channel right now. Anywho, but speaking of Mandu and Grogu, we got some The Mandalorian and Grogu casting news. The Ultimate Survivor, Ripley from the Alien franchise, has crossed over. Sigourney Weaver is confirmed to be in The Mandalorian and Grogu. The exact quote was, quote, "I'm playing a role in The Mandalorian and Grogu. I got to meet Grogu for the first time the other day." And that's the quote. That's what we know. So, Zach, thoughts on Sigourney Weaver being in Star Wars?
I'm honestly so excited. I think she never does bad work. Like, she always, even if it's the most ridiculous alien movie, she's always doing great work. I mean, look at Galaxy Quest. She's fantastic. So she's been in a Star Trek. I count Galaxy Quest as a Star Trek because it is
pretty
a
much,
perfect movie.
Yeah.
Even in the Star Trek mobile game, you can get the Galaxy Quest characters, so it's a Star Trek. Then you have her in Pandora with Avatar. So I think an Alien, she is the sci-fi queen. I think it's wonderful to have her in the Star Wars universe. I'm curious if she will be an alien or not. I doubt with the star power that is Sigourney Weaver that you will. I think she will probably be a human. But I think it would be hilarious if she was some xenomorph queen-looking alien. Just like bring it full circle. I think that would be great. But yeah, I'm excited to see her in it.
That didn't even occur to me. What if she's just the voice of a monster?
Yeah, she could be. But she said she was on set and she met.
She said
Grogu,
she was on set.
so
That's true.
I think it's highly likely that she is a human, or humanoid, and I think it's gonna be great. I think she fits that. She has the look of Star Wars. Not that there is a look of Star Wars, but I think she'll fit in, great.
Yeah, I think that she's got good presence, like you said, good look for the universe. It's another thing of Jon Favreau casting the stars of the movies that he watched when he was a kid. All the 80s people are coming back. But speaking of, casting stars, just some quick speculation for what she could be, Sigourney Weaver. Obviously, with the passing of Carl Weathers, rest in peace. I'm wondering if Sigourney Weaver could be kind of the new person in charge of like Navarro or whatever. You know what I mean? But she strikes me as an Imperial. I would have to guess.
Really?
Well, because she can be very calmly intimidating.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I would think she's going to be you're going to need a big name or at least a big presence to play the villain in this flick, and it's because it can't be somebody that they're going to save towards later stuff, right? Thrawn's probably going to get dealt with in another movie, so he might show up, but what if she could be the Carl Weathers replacement, or she could be like the villain. She could be an associate of Thrawn.
She could be a sect of Mandalorians, too. Like a rogue Mandalorian leader.
Yeah.
If she wants to be some badass.
I hope not. That is good speculation. I would hope not, only because at the end of Mando season 3, they made a point of like uniting all these Mandalorians. So I would hope that all the Mandos are together and happy. But yeah, I'm excited that she's in it. So Zach, you want to take us through this next piece of news slash speculation?
Yeah. So we have found out that Mandalorian and Grogu will start shooting, or is shooting until October, and Fantastic Four has been shooting already for a month. They will completely overlap. So is Pedro Pascal going to be physically in the movie, or is he just going to be the voice? What is your speculation on that?
I find it. I hope he's in the movie, but I doubt. I think that it's I love The Mandalorian. I'm wearing a Mandalorian shirt.
Nice. Shirt time.
But,
I got my Rex shirt.
Shirt time. But my major complaint with The Mandalorian was that for the first 2 seasons and into the Book of Boba Fett, it seemed like his arc was going to, for the first 2 seasons of Mando, it seemed like his arc was going to be about getting over the cult and taking his mask off, right? And then all of a sudden he shows up on Book of Boba Fett and he gets kicked out of the cult.
Yeah.
But he's keeping the mask on. So, and then obviously the 3rd season was about like, hey, they're not a cult, they're just another way of doing it, and they wanted to tell a story about uniting despite differences, which is fine. But it took a huge pivot for me. And I think my chaos theory is because Pedro got way more famous than they would have anticipated, started getting cast in everything. So, but to keep from, to be able to continue to do Mandalorian stories at a high frequency, they're like, fine, he will keep the helmet on.
Yeah.
So it would not surprise me at all if he is not present on screen. And I will probably get over it, and years from now, people will be like, yeah, the Mandalorian is like a faceless man with no name type character, and his face only shows up sometimes.
Yeah.
Entirely possible that was Jon Favreau's intention, that he was going to be the faceless Boba Fett type with just, you don't see anything. But what are your thoughts?
I mean, so having him in the mask is so poignant for that first few seasons that when you finally do get to see his face, it's such a like heart moment, like it really pays off in that first season especially, and then it pays off in the 2nd season when he shows his face to his child, because he just has to like show him. I think maybe, and then he does the way again, so he's back with the full helmet. I think Pedro will still be the voice. I don't think that's going to change.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't hate that he's not in the costume all the time. I think, what's his name, who's the 2 actors who do a lot of the stunt and walking, it's one of them's John Wayne's grandson. I think they do a great job. I will look up their names later. I can maybe find it. Mandalorian actors. I feel bad for not knowing their names.
Lateef Crowder is one of them.
Lateef Crowder, who's amazing.
I think he primarily does the stunts, and then I can't think of the other performer.
Oh come on, Google.
It's a
Google's
Google
just
race.
being like Pedro Pascal. Brendan Wayne and Lateef Crowder. Yeah.
There you go.
I think they both do a great job, and they bring so much to the character, from their, physicality. They're great physical actors. And so I don't think it's a detriment to the show that they're going to be in the suit the most time, because I think even in that first season, I think it's them in the suit most of the time. But I do...
It is. Yeah.
I do hope that we get... Because you could have Pedro on there for one day, film a beautiful scene with his face, of him and Grogu, or final battle thing. And it's both movies are being produced by Disney, so it's not like it's like gonna clash too much, corporation wise. It's not Mustache Gate from Justice League, So, and plus he could have whatever facial hair he needs to have because he's under a helmet, So I think it's likely that we will see him, at least in one scene, but I think it's gonna be for a very poignant scene. So
yeah, the business of it all, it would make sense if you're gonna have Pedro Pascal, who's as big as he is right now. They're probably gonna want his face in the flick.
I mean, they're gonna use him to sell the movie, so that
Yeah. So right on. There we go. I hope we get to see him. That sounds like I want to ogle him because I think he's attractive. I suppose I do, but
he's a beautiful man.
There. Yeah, there it is. Anywho, so speaking of filming news, it is confirmed by Natasha. Oh my gosh, the performer that plays Sabine, Natasha Lou Bordizzo.
I think so.
If I got it wrong, I'm sorry, everybody. The actor that portrays Sabine on Ahsoka, she confirmed at DragonCon over the weekend that they are filming Ahsoka Season 2 summer 2025. Which probably means it's going to be till 2026 till the Season 2 comes out. But Zach, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I'm so excited. I mean, we talked about it last week when we were talking about cliffhangers. There's so many cliffhangers in that first season. And I am just ready for that show to come back. I do think it fell into the same pacing problems that a lot of these Star Wars shows seem to have. But maybe if season 1 is exposition, season 2 should be action. So hopefully it moves and we get some big stuff because they're supposed to be building to that big Thrawn, Age of the Empire? Is that the
Heir to the Empire?
Heir to the Empire movie. So hopefully we get that. I did just think of something, which my pitch for who Sigourney could be. It won't happen because she's too old. But Sigourney Weaver as Mara Jade.
I knew you were gonna say
Mara Jade. Give it to me. Give me Mara Jade, Sigourney Weaver.
So at that point, well, because she couldn't be a love interest for AI Luke Skywalker because he's 20, maybe 30 at this point.
Yeah.
Unless they de-age her. I mean, yeah, she could be a different interpretation of Mara Jade, I suppose. That would be funny. I was like, no, don't say it, don't say it. That's funny. Right on. My biggest takeaway from Ahsoka filming next summer is me getting whiny and going, why aren't they filming now? I wish it was sooner.
Mm-hmm.
And I have seen a lot of people saying, this is dumb. It shouldn't take 2 years to get 8 episodes made. And I think a lot of people are, number one, not taking into account all of the stuff that Star Wars has been doing.
Yeah.
Number two, while Ahsoka was finishing, was actively being finished and premiering, the entire entertainment industry went on strike for about 8 months, which meant, they were not allowed to do any prep work on Season 2, and it was a while before Season 2 was officially confirmed as taking place.
Mm-hmm.
So it's entirely possible that they may not even have been able to start on anything until it got renewed, and that was only... It was a while ago now, but it wasn't that long in the grand scheme of things.
Mm-hmm.
So, we get whiny and we want it sooner, but we're going to get... What's interesting... because we're going to get Andor Season 2 next year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's all that's confirmed for next year. Mando and Grogu comes out summer 2026. I'm wondering, with Ahsoka Season 2 filming next summer, is that show going to be coming out somewhere around the same time as the Mandalorian and Grogu movie? Do you think they would cross the streams like that?
Maybe, because so there's two thoughts. One thought is, yes, get everybody Star Wars all the time for this month, make it the Star Wars month, boom. The other thing is, no, have Star Wars, have Star Wars throughout the year, have your Mandalorian month, let it shine, and then have your Ahsoka month, let it shine, I also think it depends on what else is coming out that at that time, slate-wise. If there's an Avengers movie that month, then probably not. If there's, some other big thing happening, but...
Well, we were reading each other's mind.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm pretty sure the next Avengers movie is slated to come out summer 2026, which is around the same time as The Mandalorian and Grogu. Let me make sure I get this right. The next one is Avengers Secret Wars, right?
Yes.
Oh.
And then Doom.
Oh, no. It's the Doomsday.
Oh, Doomsday then
comes
Secret
out
Wars?
next. Yeah. Let me see if I can find a release date. This is captivating radio, everybody. As we search the... Okay, oh gosh. Okay. Yeah. Avengers Doomsday is slated to come out May 1st, 2026.
It's near Star Wars Day.
Yep.
Unless they're giving...
And, oh my gosh. Okay, I am officially annoyed. Okay. Doomsday, Avengers Doomsday is May 1st, 2026. The Mandalorian and Grogu, May 22nd, 2026. Sure, there are 3 weeks in.
We're gonna get a solo.
There's 3 weeks in
thing again.
between, but we just talked about this like last week.
Yeah.
That you put out Solo at the same time as a much bigger film.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that makes me so upset. I'm actually mad about this.
Yeah.
I know, here we go, fanboy tears. But if this becomes something that then it doesn't do well because Doomsday is this huge thing that goes
with Robert
for
Downey
months,
Jr. coming back, like
with him, and then the Mandalorian and Grogu doesn't have a huge thing, and they're like, oh, I guess they don't like movies. Let's go back to Disney Plus. At a certain point, if you take a horse to water twice, it's not that critical, guys. Sorry, I'm gonna.
Seems like they're shooting themselves in the foot with that one.
So now, not to say that either you or I know anything about releasing films compared to like Disney, but if you did it once and it didn't work, maybe don't do it again.
Yeah.
Anyway, we will cross that bridge when we come to it. But sure enough, the two bigger nerdy movies of that year seem to be coming out at the same time.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Ahsoka, we got some news on Reddit, of all places. Somebody has finally deciphered the runes from the Chamber of Arcana, which is that first in Ahsoka episode 1 where she does the circle Ahsoka lightsaber cut that she's famous for, and goes down into the chamber where she finds, the map from Treasure Planet. In that first chamber, there were these runes, not ruins. They are ruins, but there were runes in the ruins. And somebody has finally deciphered them after 2 years. So they were deciphered for 3 there were who made the journey, without whose knowledge there is no returning, a pathway connecting near and far, across the heavens, star to star. Despite great powers which do object, the secret way the 3 protect. So heed the path with a watchful eye, for if you wander, you will die.
Good stuff.
Which means that they translated it correctly because it rhymes.
It's true because it's like poetry. It rhymes. Yes. This I want to give credit. The Reddit user was old Bendu Kenobi.
Mm-hmm.
So well done. We love this type of next level nerdiness. This is to me pinnacle classic Dave Filoni.
Yeah.
It's very mythical. It's very nerdy. It seems like poetry straight out of something like Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah.
And to me, the 3 that they were talking about, I think you got 2 options. 3 there were who made the journey, without whose knowledge there is no returning. You got 2 options. You have the Dathomirian witches, the Night Sisters that were there, or you have the father, son, and daughter of Mortis. Because as you were talking about all the cliffhangers in Ahsoka earlier, Baylan Skoll is literally standing on a cliff, and it's a cliff that is a statue of the father from Mortis and pointing to some huge temple-looking thing with lightning all around it. I think those are the options. I think that the post says, and like we said, I think it's a clue for Ahsoka Season 2.
Yeah. Unintentional
rhyme. But Zach, what are your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, I mean, it's sick writing, what a great mystic, cryptic, is it a prophecy, is it a warning, because if it's a prophecy, it could be about, Baylan, Ahsoka, and Sabine on the planet, getting their way back. Some people have theorized if it's, a door to the world between worlds, which, I think is very possible. I think that's probably how they get back to the main universe Star Wars in the next season. But the other weird thing is, Ahsoka didn't read this, like she might not know it. Maybe she did. Like maybe they don't
Maybe
state
she
it.
did.
But
Yeah.
but I don't think it's such like a little Easter egg. So it's great. I think it's so cool. Is it the knowledge not returning the map, or is it the knowledge without the knowledge there is no returning whatever is in that mountain that Balin is looking off with the eerie light and smoke? Is that Aboleth like everyone thinks it is? Is Aboleth
think
the mother?
I think that would be really cool. But keep going. Sorry.
No, that's I think it's really cool. I don't, speculation wise, I think it's probably more about Mortis than it is about the three of them, because somebody was like, oh, there's 3 Force users left on the planet, but Shin is there too, so there's technically 4 Force users there.
Yeah.
But is she the one that strays and dies? Because she strayed away from Balin. Is she gonna like bite the bullet? Yeah, I think it's cool. I don't know what it means. I have speculation, but it's so like cryptic and cool. So
yeah, I love it. I'm so stoked. So in general, my kind of Ahsoka elevator review, I think it's probably my favorite Star Wars streaming show, for in terms of what it did. Like what it was, that it was so pulpy and so fun and so philosophical, and just we're going to make this as Jedi. We're going to make this about Jedi. You know what I mean? They're going on a wild adventure that doesn't have to make sense. That the stakes were up all the way.
Oh, for sure.
I do think, like you said, it had pacing problems, and I didn't love all of the writing, but then when I sit back and look at everything that the show did, I think it's my favorite. So kind of like you said a while ago, if season 1 was exposition, season 2, the universe is going to open up. We're going to have a little more fun and stuff. And last thing on this, before we move on to the next deal, I did just realize, we didn't get Zeb on Ahsoka, but confirmed we're getting Zeb in The Mandalorian and Grogu.
Yeah.
So maybe there is going to be, we know there's going to be connective tissue of some type between the movie and Ahsoka season 2, just because they go on and on and on about how it's the same time period and whatever else.
Oh, and you gotta have Zeb and Ezra reunite.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine if that happens in that movie? I'll freak out.
It could.
I'll freak out. That would be
what
great.
if Mandalorian and Grogu is them learning about Thrawn being back?
That's a really good point. It's probably,
and then you set up the next movie, which is Heir to the Empire. Yeah,
so we think, if you don't know what we're talking about, it was confirmed that Filoni is working on a movie that is, quote unquote, about a major battle that the New Republic still has to overcome. And we've all kind of been putting together that it's Heir to the Empire.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm here for all of it. It's my favorite thing currently happening in Star Wars. Speaking of another thing that I think is really cool, and another creative that I really love in Star Wars, the Charles Soule run on the mainline Star Wars comic is coming to an end, I believe, this month, with Star Wars 50. They've teased that it's going to be about Luke teaching Ben a major lesson. So it's probably, this comic book is set between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. But I think that this final issue, Star Wars number 50, is going to be about, you're going to see the culmination of all those arcs, but you're also going to see it kind of being taught years later. It's going to be Luke Skywalker telling Ben Solo a story, right? This one time your mother and I, blah, blah, blah. But the comic book before that, Star Wars 49, featured Luke doing something that everybody was mad about Leia doing in The Last Jedi, Luke Skywalker's spacewalks. I've got a link here for Zach to look at the the actual comic page, and we'll put that up right underneath us. Thanks, Nate. But it is Luke Skywalker cutting his way out of an escape pod with a lightsaber and pulling himself with the Force after the bad guy, and it's really dope. I think he just says something like, "Release Leia, surrender."
And my favorite part is the pilot with this awesome Scar going, seriously, like
really?
Well,
Well,
oh,
and
come
so-
on.
Yeah. Before I even say anything about, the Force being overpowered or whatever else, or Zach, what's your take on Jedi spacewalking?
I mean, it's canon, so, you use it, I think that's cool. I mean, I don't think it's something that I also think they don't do it, it's, even Plo Koon does it in Clone Wars, even though it's, his
That's
mask
true.
and whatever, or his species, but it's, I'm sure the Force helps, I think it's a very cool thing that shouldn't be used all the time, and obviously shouldn't be oh, and we can just spacewalk all the time. It's that Peter Quill going out to save Gamora, slowly, dying, but just enough force is keeping him alive to make it happen. I think it's that. I think if it's used that way, I'm all for it. If it's cool, I can, use the force to hold my breath and also keep my skin from freezing for maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute. I think that's cool. I think that's sick.
Yeah, the other one, I don't know if you mentioned this, but Kanan does it on Rebels. Maul sucks him out of an airlock into space, and he's actively spinning out, and his skin is starting to freeze, but he just reaches with the Force and pulls himself back in.
Yeah.
And it was us going, and there were people like me that were like, how come everybody was mad about Leia and not that? I think the biggest reason everybody was mad about Leia was just the visual of her dress billowing. She looked like Mary Poppins. And it's an amazing sequence, and it was such an amazing moment considering, Carrie Fisher had passed away about a year before that movie came out, and then you get, for the first time in a movie, the concert version of Princess Leia's theme with the whole, orchestral swell and everything. And whatever. Anyway, I liked that moment, but I will agree that the dress made her look like Mary Poppins. So it's okay, what are we doing? But it was just that image was silly. But I love this. I like it when exactly like you said. It's almost like Jedi being underwater more than strictly being in typical space. There's a quote from George Lucas that I don't want to say where it came from because I don't remember. But it gets quoted by Star Wars Explained all the time. Shout out to their channel. But George Lucas said, in my universe, there is air when I want it in space. He's just whatever.
Yeah.
It's like I've said before, Star Wars is science fantasy, not science fiction. It's pulpy comics based on Flash Gordon stuff. It's supposed to be fun and not necessarily make sense. Yeah. So if the answer is it's fun, that's why it happens. But alrighty.
All right.
So we're moving into the mailbag. Zach, do you want to read us this question?
Yeah. So we have our mailbag question, and then we will get on to our interview with Tabletop Empire. Mailbag. Sorry, do you have who this was from, Matt?
It's from a friend, Brian Lawson. Shout out. His email is thebardbarian, which is very on brand with our role-playing game episode. Yeah. But here's his question from Brian.
He gave us a bunch of different questions. This was one that I thought was particularly fun. With the majority of planets from the original trilogy being all one biome, what is an untapped planet-wide biome that you would love to see portrayed? I have two answers for this, but Matt, let's start with you.
It's an interesting question, and I like it. It was something that George Lucas was always very, very particular about, that each planet looked distinct. They all looked different. And at the end of the day, the biggest reason Jakku became, quote-unquote, not Tatooine, or looks just like Tatooine, but it's not, is that, in my opinion, we have done all the biomes. So Disney had to be there's forest, there's ice, there's desert, there's normal, there's grasslands, there's mountains.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to get creative, we can go fungus. But strictly, again, embracing the space fantasy, something that we haven't seen. I don't know if it would work, because we've also seen a cloud planet. We've seen a lava planet. We have not seen a shadow planet.
Ooh, cool.
A planet that's almost like if there's no sun, it would be we've seen Exegol, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But something if it was just if it was a dark Bespin, dark cloud city, where everything is just darkness and like there's no bottom to it. It's almost like a planet. It would be like a dark side planet, I guess. I think that could be cool.
Yeah.
Especially in live action, that could be really cool.
So my two, the first one is like actual deep underwater. You know, we've gotten a little bit in the Clone Wars, but like we haven't had like full on, almost like Aquaman. You know, like I want to see Star Wars' version of Aquaman Atlantis. You know, like
Well, we got a little bit of that with like Otto Gunga.
a little bit, but like I feel like we didn't explore it. I feel like
Like a whole planet.
I feel like there's more to explore with that, because Otto Gunga feels like a underwater, but in a pond. You know, I want underwater ocean Mariana Trench, but darker than Naboo. You know, like that whole sequence is really cool. With there's always a bigger fish, but I want
That's
like
cool.
deep trench people. You know. The other one I really want is I was looking up biomes with the answer to this question, and there's a biome called taiga, which is that like Montana, Alaska, like huge mountains, forest, huge plains. You know, I want like cowboy stories in that kind of space.
Cowboy stories.
I want Yellowstone in Star Wars.
I dig it.
Yellow quartz.
There we go.
Yellow
Yellow
Kyber.
quartz. Yeah. That's cool. Well, all right. Thanks for the question, Brian.
Yeah.
And okay, we have teased it long enough. Let's get into the interview, the crossover interview with Nate Barber of Tabletop Empire. All right, and so here we are with our first crossover episode, as it were. Let's give a warm welcome to Nate Barber, the creator and runner of the YouTube channel Tabletop Empire.
Woo-hoo!
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty
Welcome.
good, man. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, just chilling. Probably gonna edit a video later today, so it'll go up later this week.
Nice.
Oh.
We are too.
Fun.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. You know, it means a lot that you know, just having you here. It's you know, an honor for us as a smaller creator. And you know, we've been following your videos and stuff. I'm a huge tabletop person myself. I have a D20 up my sleeve. So just you know, it's really great to have you on the show.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Happy to come on and talk. So. I'm
Yeah,
still
man,
kind of a smallish
I really-
creator myself, so I don't get a whole lot of invites like this. So these are always really fun.
Hey, right on. We're all about giving platforms to anybody. This show is, you know, so far, you are, in fact, the first guest we've had that we don't know from real life. So, yay. But we're all about getting everybody's perspectives on Star Wars and stuff. But I want to give special thanks to you for a moment. I run the Star Wars role-playing game a lot, and I am bad at remembering rules. So from time to time, I'll pull up Tabletop Empire, and I'll be like, how does this work? I'm like, oh,
If it makes you feel better, I
okay.
do the same thing sometimes. I pull up my own videos. I'm like, how does like traveling through space go again? Like, what are the rules for like flying through a nebula or whatever? Like, small little rules here and there that are so fun fact. Like when I started the channel, I wasn't actually like a super expert on the system. I really enjoyed Star Wars. I wanted to get back into Star Wars RPG, and there were like no good resources online for like comprehensively learning the entire system. There was like occasional video here for like how to create a character, occasional video here for like what the system is, occasional video here for like how maybe combat works, but everything else was kind of barren. So I was like, I've been trying to do YouTube thing for like 2 years. I could pivot. I'll try to make a channel and help people by creating something that I want to exist that I can easily just send to my players. And it just kind of took off. So
Yeah,
That's cool.
I was watching one of your Instagram stories last night. I thought it was so funny that one of your live game players was sent a video of you for another for another.
it's a weird feeling. Like and I was kind of joking with him. I was like, you should totally like send the guy a selfie. Because yeah, I mean, it's like what are the odds that this guy that's in your campaign is like good friends with the dude. So like that guy, he's been a friend of mine for a few months, and like we went to like a concert together a few months ago in May, and then sometime like June or so, he wanted to join in on our Star Wars RPG campaign. So I was like, yeah, dude, come on in. I don't care if you've never played before. We'll get you up to speed.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome. Well, and so speaking of tabletop RPGs and all these things, it might be a surprise, but I can guarantee there are people even listening to this Star Wars podcast that are like, RPGs, that's too nerdy for me. So I guess real quick, Nate, if there's anybody listening that has not taken the dive on tabletop role-playing games, why do you think they should?
it's definitely like it's a different experience than anything else. It is a bit nerdy, like it has that nerdy like stigma to it. But it really is like Deborah. You're familiar with Deborah Ann Wolf or whatever? She plays Karen in Daredevil. She had this interview recently with like John Bernthal, and she was explaining how like it's the closest thing that people our age can get to just being like a kid on the playground again, just creating stories and having fun in that way. And so I don't know, there's just something like special about tabletop role-playing games. If you like, I mean, I'm more of I came more from a video gamer side of things. So like I've been a huge video gamer since I was a kid. Got into like board games when I was like a freshman in college. I was also a freshman in college when I got introduced to Star Wars RPG. My only experience with tabletop RPGs before that was like a little bit of D&D in high school, but it was me and my best friend, and neither of us knew what we were doing at all, and so we were not playing it right. Like looking back, I'm like, we were not doing that right at all. And so like I only kind of recently as an adult got into tabletop role-playing games, and it's been one of the most fun things ever. And now like all of my online friends, I'm in 2 different tabletop role-playing games for 2 nights of the week, and then I have an in-person game session that I play with some of my close friends in real life every like 2 or 3 weeks. But sometimes it kind of the schedule for my in-person games is really inconsistent because we're all married and have children and whatnot. So it's not easy to find time, but it's definitely one of the you get together with your friends. It's pretty much playing a game together, and you just cut up and have fun.
Yeah,
there's nothing like it.
I gotta say, I feel you on that. Finding a time. I have a D&D group that we've been playing for 7 years now, and I think we've been on hiatus from our weekly game for 3 months because of just summer and life and everything. But man, is it great when we get back together. If you're listening, friends, please.
Last night was probably our last in-person session for a few months, just because I have a baby girl that's due in October. So, and September is like a crazy month for all of us. We're all like super busy every weekend. So it'll probably be like December or January before we get back together.
Well, congratulations on the baby girl. That's
Thank you.
Amazing. That's really cool.
Right on. And yes, congratulations on the kiddo. But I can also agree that the biggest challenge role-playing games have to face isn't rules, isn't villains, isn't monsters. It's having time to play the game. I had a long-running D&D group as well with people my age, and I ended up kind of pivoting to former students of mine because they're kids and they have no time. Or, sorry, they have all the time in the world. So now I'm playing with, like, college kids, and they don't know anything about how any of the rules work, and sometimes that's more fun, because they're just like, can I do this ridiculous thing that isn't on the page at all? And I'm like, you can try.
That's how every player should play. Like, and that's the weird thing. Like, for me, I came from a video game background, so, I'm, like, looking at my stats and being like, oh, I can do stealth. Like, hey, I want to do, like, the stealth in this moment instead of just, like, getting into the character and being like, what would my character do in this moment? And then letting the GM be like, okay, yeah, roll for coordination or whatever.
Yeah. Right on. Well, cool. So we've talked about kind of, what you're really into, like now, specifically, role-playing games and stuff. But this podcast is all about getting new perspectives on Star Wars, these stories that we all love. And so let's dive into the actual interview. And the first question, where were you, Nate, when you first saw Star Wars, or what is your first Star Wars memory?
My first memory of watching Star Wars, I mean, it could have been earlier, but I remember I was like 5 or so. We were at my cousin's house, and it was like my parents, my aunt and uncle, me, my 2 sisters, and my 3 cousins, who were also like the same age as us, and just watching The Phantom Menace. So that was, I think, the first time. So I was shown them in chronological order, technically, kind of. So yeah, my first memory was Phantom Menace when I was like 5 or 6, and I immediately like was in love with it, and I wanted all the lightsaber stuff. And then when Attack of the Clones came out on DVD, I remember sitting on the couch watching that with my dad when I was like 6 or 7. And then eventually, like they would like wake us up at night for like a movie night after the other siblings went to bed for like a one-on-one movie night thing. And so I remember doing that for 4, 5, and 6, and then later when 3 came out, doing that for 3. So
That's cool. So you saw them in chronological order, like you said.
It's like really weird because I was so young. I don't remember like my reaction to Vader being like Luke's father or anything like that. So it's just kind of feels like I've always known. So
yeah. Do you remember your reaction to Jar Jar Binks at 5 years old?
Oh, I thought he was hilarious when I was 5. So.
Hey, even when I was 10, I was like, I mean, I don't know, but he's funny.
Yeah.
I had a Jar Jar Binks watch. I love Jar Jar Binks.
It's weird. Like when I was a kid, I liked Jar Jar Binks. I never did say I ever loved him, but I liked Jar Jar Binks as a kid. And then like as I kind of got a little bit older, I was like, okay, he's kind of annoying. And as I'm continuing to get older, I'm like, I kind of like him again. You know, it's fine. Like people hate on the Phantom Menace so badly, and I mean, like sure, all of Star Wars is kind of like kids movies ish, but like the Phantom Menace specifically, if you go into it with the mindset of like it's a movie for 10-year-olds. It's like it's enjoyable in the same way that like Monsters Inc. or Toy Story is. Like it's a movie for 10-year-olds, but that doesn't mean you can't enjoy it with that expectation.
Yes, absolutely agree. Good stuff.
Moving on to the next question, who is your favorite Star Wars hero?
Anakin Skywalker.
Ooh.
I'm a prequel guy, so Anakin. It's
Yeah.
a really Obi-Wan's close, Ahsoka's close, but Anakin pulls it.
Yeah.
Why is
Yep.
Anakin your favorite?
I don't know. He was always just the coolest. Ever since I was a kid, I just thought he was the awesomest character. He was cool. Like the super like lightsaber fights, and I really like Hayden Christensen a lot too. So and now as an adult, I really like. I'm a sucker for redemption arc stories. So Anakin having the redemption arc kind of takes the cake.
Oh, him being in Ahsoka was the best thing.
So good. So good.
I got to meet him at Comic-Con last year, and he was
that's
very
awesome.
nice. He's a very nice man.
Yeah, he's become, I think he's like a goat farmer in Canada, right? Or did I
Yeah.
make that up?
Something like that. He doesn't really act anymore, from what I can tell.
Hey, we want him back. Well, speaking of Hayden Christensen, what did you think of his performance in the prequels? Because it was quote unquote hated for a very long time.
Yeah, I think he played the character perfectly. Like it's one of those things where he's an awkward kid. That's pretty much how he was written. So I think like if there's any like criticism of his character, I don't think it was how he was played. It was either like how he was directed or written. But like then again, I don't really have a problem with it. So yeah, I never really hated on the prequel dialogue.
That's good. That's cool. All right, so we got your favorite hero. Who's your favorite villain?
I mean, Anakin, Vader.
That's awesome. You get 2 in 1.
Yeah.
Well, then, same follow up. Why is he your favorite?
If I had to choose someone that's not like if I had to choose a different character, I would probably say Thrawn. I've been reading through the Thrawn books recently. I'm like at the very end of Thrawn Treason, and I'm really enjoying it. It's like the newer Thrawn books.
Are you reading them or are you doing the audiobook?
Audiobook.
It's so excellent,
It's
isn't it?
so good. It's so
That
good.
guy's voice, I think it's Mark
Yeah.
Thompson.
Yeah.
I'm a Mark Thompson fanboy when it comes to Star Wars audiobooks.
I definitely think the third book is by far the best book of the 3. The first 2 are kind of slow. But like they're not bad, they're just really slow.
Yeah.
So the third one I'm really enjoying.
Well, real quick, let's get your elevator review of those Thrawn books.
Sure. So like I said, the first one's about Thrawn's rise through the military ranks. I would probably give it like a 4 out of 5. It was really interesting, but like there was no like I guess, hook throughout the book to like really like make me like I gotta finish this. Like I know what happens. And so it was a little bit slower paced, but it was still like really interesting, and I really enjoyed it overall. It was just, it probably would have been a hard read just because of how slow it was, but I was doing audiobooks, so they made it a lot easier. I'll just like listen to it on car rides and stuff. The second book, I'd probably give like a 3.5 out of 5.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know, it just kind of felt slow. And it was kind of like 2 stories happening at the same time, but because it was like 2 stories happening at the same time, it just kind of felt like each story was taking forever. And then the third book, I'd probably give like a 4.5 out of 5. It seems to be a lot more like fast paced. It's like a mystery, kind of a mystery adventure where they're trying to figure out like what's causing this problem. And I actually like low key ripped the third book premise for my last 2 sessions for Star Wars RPG. So
nice.
Yeah.
That is my favorite thing, when you realize that, like, wait, none of my players have read this Star Wars novel. That means that I can steal it.
Yeah.
That's cool. No, I definitely agree on the Thrawn books. I love him as a character, and the books get to cool places, but sometimes Timothy Zahn can go really, really heavy into the details and stuff. But
Thrawn, but the coolest thing about the second book is just Thrawn knowing that Anakin is Vader because he worked with him before, and him being like, "Oh, you're Vader," like that's that moment where he's like, "I know who you are," like,
yeah.
Peak.
I mean, like, so Vader is probably one of my favorite villains because 1, I mean, the redemption arc in Anakin, but 2, like, he's just a really like BA villain, but also like the tragedy of he's pretty much like a slave for the Emperor. And kind of he's trapped himself into the state that he's in. So it's kind of like a tragic villain story, but on top of that, like he's just super BA. Like he'll murder everyone.
Yeah.
And then Thrawn, just like the super tactical side of things. The way he's like always kind of 5 steps ahead. I was kind of disappointing the way he was written in Ahsoka. I don't think he lived up to how he was written. I wish they could have brought in like Timothy Zahn or something to come in and write the script help with the scripts for the episodes that he's in.
It's kind of something they've been leaning on even since he showed up in Rebels, where and I love Dave Filoni, but when he writes Thrawn, it's very much like everything is falling apart, and Thrawn will be like, "It's fine, we will win eventually," and they're like, "The whole ship is destroyed, we will win eventually." What?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
You haven't won once.
Yeah, and then you get to like the books, and it's like, yeah, he just doesn't lose.
Yeah, for sure.
It's you next. No, it's me. Whatever. Who is your favorite random alien background character? Or favorite alien?
I don't know if I have like a favorite alien background character. There's definitely have some favorite like background characters. I guess if I had to say like alien background character at the moment, the first thing that comes to mind is like the unnamed Twi'lek Majordomo from Book of Boba Fett. I find him like hysterical. Like the apologies. And I quote that all the time. Like I really get a kick out of like the background characters in Attack of the Clones when they're on Geonosis, and the animators forgot to add in droids, so they're just like lightsaber fighting in the air. There's like
that's right.
Or like there's these 2 droids in the background of Revenge of the Sith, like when he's like, "I've been trained in the arts by Count Dooku," and there's 2 droids, and one of them like bumps into the other one's like, "Hey, look, he's about to pull out his lightsabers." If you've never noticed that before, it's really funny. I know I was pointed that one out a few weeks ago.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite little like animator nods in the background of anything. And then when he lights them, they both go, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
I have not noticed this.
It's right after "Hello There." He like pulls it down, and then he, it's right when he's like
right before he pulls Grievous pulls his lightsabers out.
Yeah,
you'll see like these 2 B1 battle droids.
That's the sense of humor of George Lucas, man. It's like it's all over the prequels. Even the bit where Jabba's eating the little monsters in the pod race, and then he gets bored and he flicks one off the counter. Supposedly that was a joke that the animators made, and they were like, he won't put this in the movie, and he thought it was hilarious and put it in the movie, and they were like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's just his sense of humor, man. We love it. Okay, so if you had a lightsaber, what color would it be?
Let me show you, actually.
That's the best answer. There you go. Well done. He's got to go pull it out of the... We heard a thud.
Yeah, my closet. So this is my Saber Forge lightsaber.
Nice.
They're like cyan. Cyan is my color for
cool
lightsaber.
Very cool.
Love that.
I love it.
Love that. What is there any particular reason that's the color that you went with?
It's just kind of my favorite color at the moment. So it's been kind of my favorite color for a while, I think. So that's pretty much it.
Right on. Love it. Zach, hit him with the next one.
All right. If you could have a Star Wars tattoo, or if you already have one, what would it be / what is it?
So I had to think about this question because you sent me this one a little ahead of time. I had to think about it because I do want a Star Wars tattoo at some point, and I wasn't really sure like which one I want, like what I wanted. At the moment, like there's this like really simplistic like binary sunset tattoo idea that I like, where it's pretty much like a flat line, and then there's like an outline of like, you know, Luke's home on Tatooine, and then like the two suns, just two black circles for the suns.
Yeah,
like that one a lot.
Love that.
That's cool. Love that.
Yeah.
That's obviously it's one of the more legendary moments of the whole saga. So that's a good one.
Yeah, and the music there too is phenomenal. So like I don't have any tattoos currently. I have like 4 or 5. If the Star Wars one would maybe be like 6 that I have like ideas for. My wife's waiting to get like any tattoos before, and when she's done with like having kids and being pregnant and breastfeeding and stuff. So when she goes in for her first tattoo, I'll probably go in for mine. I want like 2 or 3 band tattoos, a Star Wars tattoo. There's a worship song that I like a lot that I want a tattoo for. So,
cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Right on. Love all that. Okay, so what is your favorite Star Wars story? And to be fair, one of our previous guests kind of found a loophole in this one. So this can be like your favorite Star Wars story in or out of the fictional universe.
Yeah. Okay, so Revenge of the Sith is my favorite movie of all time. So
cool.
That's definitely up there. I'm kind of a sucker for also like movies with darker themes and like more emotional dark themes. So like stuff like The Dark Knight and like Revenge of the Sith and stuff. Like I'm a sucker for those kinds of movies. I absolutely adore Andor. Like I'm showing my best friend Andor. Like he finally agreed 2 years later to watch it with me. So we're like watching through it. And I'm literally like I have like butterflies in my stomach while watching the show because it's just so good. I love it so much. So those two are probably like the top 2 for me. The finale to Clone Wars is also up there. That may or may not have made me cry like 2 or 3 times when it was coming out. So
100%.
you find yourself drawn to the darker, the heavier elements.
Heavier stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's awesome.
One Way Out.
One Way Out. My favorite episode. So good.
All right. So finding your love for Star Wars at multiple points in your life, what does Star Wars mean to you?
I think for me, it's a story about redemption, and 2, it's a story about family, and those are kind of like the two big ticket items for me, like what Star Wars is about. Like sure, it's also there's elements of the fun, the fantasy, the cool lightsabers, like Jedi and Sith, and rebellion, overthrowing evil, but like the big ones are family and redemption.
So, our last question. This is the ridiculous Star Wars trivia question. The ridiculous Rathtar, as we refer to it. So either you win either way, because either you got this nonsense trivia that you probably shouldn't know, or you don't, and that means you have a life. So, hooray. But okay, so This is a deep Star Wars RPG question. Going back to the West End Games era, which is the original Star Wars role-playing game, what was the first RPG, Star Wars RPG adventure ever released?
I have no idea. I know nothing about the West End or Saga edition of the game. I was introduced to the at the time Fantasy Flight Games version, and I love the dice system in it, so I never really bothered to look into the other ones.
Yeah.
Right on. Hey, we both do too. I've ran Zach through the Star Wars role-playing, the Fantasy Flight Games Star Wars role-playing one. For anybody at home, Rebel Breakout was the name of the adventure in the original rulebook, and then Tatooine Manhunt was the first solo adventure. I ran Tatooine Manhunt. That somebody had updated it for the Fantasy Flight system. I ran it, and it was quite terrible. I had to change it a lot. So I was like, oh no, this doesn't make any sense. There's a Boba Fett stand-in character in that adventure that he is not Boba Fett. His name's like Jodo Cost or something. But it was the first time that like somebody was like, well, we can't put Boba Fett in here, so we're going to give him Boba Fett's costume and all of his stuff and just give him a different name. So anyway, so that's the ridiculous question. So you talked about, before we get into more specific role-playing game questions in this interview, you said that you found Star Wars you found role-playing games later in life. What led you to role-playing games in the first place?
So my first exposure to it was, I think, my sophomore year of high school, and my best friend at the time, we're still close friends, but he brought in D&D one day to like a chorus class that we were both in, and he was like, hey, you want to try playing this with me? And I'm like, what is it? And he's like, it's Dungeons and Dragons. And I'm like, I've heard of it, I have no idea like what it is. And he's like, that's okay, I'm still kind of learning it too. So we tried playing it, and I think we were playing it very wrong, because I was casting Magic Missile every single round, and there were no spell slots. So we played it maybe like once or twice, and we neither of us knew what we were doing, and then we kind of just like didn't keep playing it. That was back when like Minecraft was in beta, and so me and him played a ton of Minecraft back in the day. Before it was on Xbox, before it was cool, we got called losers for playing Minecraft. That's how long way before it was popular. And so that was kind of my first exposure to it, and then we were snowed in my freshman year of college. And so all the classes were canceled, and I have a hall buddy who also likes Star Wars, and he was like, hey, I think we asked him if we wanted to hang out or something, and he was like, no, I'm gonna go play like the Star Wars role-playing game thing with some friends. And I was like, oh, that sounds interesting, mind if I tag along? And he was like, sure. So we went over, and we created a character. We went over to the main school building, into the engineering room, because all of us were engineering students at the time. And so we created characters, and it's really funny, like looking back, like I had no idea what I was really doing. But we ended up playing like all day, and then like all day the next day, because we were snowed in again, and then meeting like once a week for a few months before that campaign kind of fizzled out. But that was like the first time I got introduced to Star Wars RPG, and then the next year I wanted to run it, so I bought Force and Destiny. No, which one did I buy first? I think I bought Edge of the Empire first. And so I had Edge of the Empire, and I ended up running it with a couple friends a couple times. Eventually bought the Force and Destiny book. And I kind of would like have a group for like 2 or 3 months, 4 months, and then we'd kind of stop playing it for 6 months, and then we'd pick up start another campaign for a few months. And then the last one that I ran back then, pretty much like my ex-girlfriend was in it, and then we broke up, and then we didn't keep playing. And then people were busy, and so kind of stopped playing it, and then went to pick it up again a few years later. And that's when I was trying to like learn the rules and stuff, and they just like, this was 2021. The rules, like there was no good videos on like how how to learn the rules and stuff like more in depth, and to refresh myself because it had been 2 or 3 years since I'd played. And so I was like, yeah, I'll just do this because I had been thinking about what I wanted to do on YouTube because I initially, for the longest time since I was a kid, I wanted to start my own game studio. When I was in college, I started the game studio and had like 10 students all working on this passion project with me. And after about 2 years, we all kind of realized that, yeah, this wasn't for us. And towards the end of that period, I started working on a YouTube channel to try to build like an audience to, I have an audience for the game that we're making already. And I realized I enjoyed the YouTube thing way more. So I made a channel on Twitch tips and how to grow your live stream and like how to make your own webcam borders and stuff. And I did that like weekly videos for a year and a half and only ever got like 300 subscribers. And so I burnt out and I stopped. And I was like, well, I still want to do YouTube. I'm just going to pivot because I'm not. There's a couple people in this space already that are doing it and they're doing it better than me. So I'm gonna find something else that I can do. And then there's also about the time like. Up to that point, I kind of wanted to do video games, like a video game streamer. Because like, what's be better than playing video games for a living? And then I kind of realized over a period of time too that I don't want to ruin video games for myself by making it a career. So I need to find something one that I enjoy, but it's not like my favorite thing in the world that I'm gonna like ruin it for myself for it being a job. And two, something that like there's not a super saturated niche on YouTube for it. And so we were watching Legend of Vox Machina on Amazon Prime. And I was like, I really wish there was a Star Wars RPG like Critical Role. And then it was like Lightbulb. I'll just do it. Nobody else is doing it. I'll do it. So that's kind of how the channel started. And so I really started like diving into the rules, trying to like learn as much as I can about the system, and then making the videos on it and kind of learning as I'm making the videos too. So like I've always really enjoyed Star Wars RPG, but it was never like one of my favorite things in the world. I really enjoy it and I love playing it with my friends, but it's also like it could be my career and I'm not going to ruin it for myself. So yeah.
That's awesome.
That's cool. That's what that's the thing. Any kids listening, that's what they don't tell you about anything. Once something you love becomes your work, it becomes your work. And sometimes that can put
it's more enjoyable still than like working a dumb desk job that you hate. But still but you're not gonna like clock off of work and be like, I just want to play video games for myself or whatever. If it was video games, like, or I'm not gonna go home and just like play guitar for myself, because you just did that all day. So
it doesn't become your escape anymore.
Yeah, and like I think the smart thing kind of about Star Wars RPG is that play it in person. So pretty much like when I start my channel campaign in January, because we're gonna start hopefully as close to Critical Role as possible without being voice actors and stuff.
Awesome.
And it's gonna be virtual people because finding people near you is hard, especially when you live like 45 minutes out of a city in Florida and not even like a big city, just kind of a normal sized city. So, it's not going to ruin it for myself because I'm going to have one campaign for the channel that I'm going to be running. That's going to be a lot of time and effort and thought and stress, but it's going to be fun. And then I'm going to have one group that I'm playing with like every 2-3 weeks in person. That's just like the one time we kind of get to hang out away from our kids and spouses. Yeah. Just goof up and hang out. So, yeah.
Very cool.
That's awesome. I can say real quick what actually introduced me to role-playing games at all was Freddie Prinze Jr.'s YouTube channel, where the cast of Star Wars Rebels played the Star Wars role-playing game, GM'd by Sam Witwer.
Yeah,
dude,
I've heard about that.
It is so fun. You want to talk about not paying attention to the rules at all, but just having so much fun. Sam takes them through takes the cast of Star Wars Rebels through the Edge of the Empire beginning game, the Escape from Mos Shuta or whatever.
Yeah.
But it is just an absolute blast. And I was watching it going, wait, that's what role-playing games are? I didn't know that's what this is. This looks so fun. And since that stream has happened, I've been going, I just wish someone would do exactly what you said. The critical role for Star Wars role-playing games. So I'm in your corner for this one, man. I will watch every episode. I will happily watch.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a lot of people say that, like, so I've said on like previous live streams that I've done and stuff that like one of my biggest things I've kind of like have anxiety about is that, like, I'm not Matt Mercer. I'm not nearly as good of a GM as Matt Mercer is. Not even like on a voice actor front, just like as a GM. Like I mean, I think I'm a decent GM, but I want it to be as like good as possible. And I've had a lot of people say like, every GM's different. Like, don't try to be Matt Mercer, try to be yourself. And I'm like, yes, I'm gonna try to be myself, but it's like the skill of it. So it's going to be fun. I think it'll be fun regardless, as long as the players and we're having fun. I think other people are going to have fun watching.
Yeah.
So last night was really interesting. I mean, tabletop role playing, really, it's like, it's just cutting up and then sometimes doing stupid stuff, and then consequences of stupid stuff nearly get you killed. So like last night we were playing in this my in-person session, and pretty much the players were like tracking this pilot to this like criminal town, and they are like going all over the place pretty much trying to like find this guy. Eventually they find him in a Pike Syndicate hideout, and they talk their way in, but like they get put into these interrogation rooms to vet them pretty much, because the Pikes didn't recognize them, obviously, because they've never seen them before. So anyway, they bust out of the interrogation room, they sneak upstairs into the admin area of this like base. They steal a bunch of information. They look at the security feeds and they're like, "Oh, hey, that the leader person that we were waiting on to come interrogate us is done with whatever she was doing, and now is in the middle of the hallways." And so obviously our Wookiee character was like, "I'm gonna go down and meet her." So anyway, he goes down and meets her, and like by the skin of his teeth, she's just like, get out, just get out of the base. And so the other two players decide to like, we'll try to follow him out. So they walk downstairs. The lady didn't see the Wookiee leave the admin area. She just saw the Wookiee like just roaming the hallways pretty much. So she sees the other two people walking down, like leaving this restricted access area. And they're like, "Oh yeah, we're with the Wookiee." And so obviously this Pike Syndicate leader thing is not just going to let them walk out. So sounds the alarm. The entire base swarms them. Like on round 2, he goes from like having 8 wounds to rolling a 146 critical injury, like, and is nigh gonna die at the end of next round. And so it's their first time like ever having a character die. And so I was gonna be like a little bit merciful at first. I was like if I do this, I'm not doing this again. Like, we'll put your character in a back to tank or something for like the next 4 sessions, and you can play a new character until they're eventually better. And then I realized, I was like, wait a second, like, no, I'm not doing that. So there's a severity rating on this, so that means you can heal it. So if the droid can get over to you and heal you by the end of next turn, you'll survive. Otherwise, your character's gonna die. So he managed to heal him. He managed to not die. They all managed to escape. 2 of the 3 characters had max their wounds and their strain were at the thresholds, both.
Wow.
And the Wookiee had like half wounds, but with 3 critical injuries. They barely managed to escape, but it was hilarious, and it's just like we were all like laughing, and like it's just a fun time. That's all. That's all they really are. It's just a fun time to hang out with your friends.
Yeah.
There you go, man. Fun time to hang out with your friends and tell stories and potentially kill your friends' characters.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Right on. Well, to get into some specific RPG questions,
Sure.
Do you prefer to play as like a player, or do you prefer to game master, to run the game?
So, for the longest time, I didn't like to be a player because I didn't really. I mean, like, so the longer I played Star Wars RPG, like as a player, the less I was kind of enjoying it, because I have kind of a short attention span, and you kind of have to. There's a lot of like waiting for other players to do their thing too, and so for the longest time, I thought I was like, I'm just a GM. And so I've pretty much only GM'd for the most part for the past 9 years. And then my buddy once wanted to run a campaign set in the League of Legends universe using the Dungeon World system, which is like Powered by the Apocalypse. And so I was a player in that one, and it was kind of the first time I had reapproached the player like knowing the game and kind of how the game should play, and not just playing it like it's a video game, which is kind of like the amateur. That's one of the amateur mistakes a new player can make, is treating the game like it's a video game with, you know, video game mechanics and just trying to, yeah. So we've been at it with a player perspective and enjoyed it a lot more. And so he GMs like mini campaigns from time to time, not in Star Wars or Genesis, to my detriment. But he's a sucker for like Powered by the Apocalypse, the super rules light narrative systems, which they're not my thing at all. Right now he's running a I'm a player in his Dreams and Machines campaign, which is like a 2D20. It's made by the people who made Star Trek Adventures. Okay. It's like a Horizon Zero Dawn theme.
Cool.
So it's okay. The system itself is okay. It's not my preference, but you know, it's fine. But I would say I enjoy being a player a lot more. So I'm one of my players for my in-person sessions. He ran a one-shot for Star Wars RPG with Force and Destiny. My first time being a player in Star Wars RPG in 9 years, and it was a blast. I loved it. So I think now, like, I don't think I have a preference one way or the other. Both are really fun. I kind of tend to be the GM more frequently than not, but I wish that I had somebody to GM me more frequently for this system.
I will say, once you GM and then you go back to a player, I feel like there is that like you approach the game differently from a like storytelling perspective. You're like, oh, this is the role that my character should play to fit in this story, while still being like true to your character. But like, I feel like it I don't know. When I run games, it's always fun to run for other GMs as well, because they, you know, everybody's like, cool, we're gonna move the story along, and we're gonna go, and we're gonna like do crazy stuff, and then we're gonna, you know, make big choices, and then it'll move the game, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of like there's two kind of mental shifts that come with like becoming an experienced GM, and one is that like for the story aspect of it. And the second is like the problem solving aspect. So like sometimes when you're a player, it's like, I don't know what I can do. I can't think of solutions to get past this problem. Whereas when you become a GM, it's like you're trying to think of, okay, what are all the ways that my players can potentially like get through this? So that way, like they have multiple solutions in front of them if they get stuck. And so kind of doing that, it allows you as a player to be like, okay, I can think of all the ridiculous ways to try to like bust into this area or to get past this problem.
Nice. Well, speaking of running games, do you prefer to run published adventures or homebrew adventures?
I generally prefer to do homebrew adventures, and then like I'll occasionally throw in like some pre-made campaigns. So the previous campaign I ran for my in-person group, we did Trouble Brewing, the Edge of the Empire book included an adventure, and we kind of launched off of that into another adventure, and then they all kind of built like jack of all trade characters, like no min-maxed characters at all, so everybody had like 2s and 3s across the board, and so they realized that they weren't like super amazing at anything that was harder than hard. So they wanted to start over with new characters, so that's currently the campaign we're running now. And we've pretty much been doing all homebrew up to this point, but we're going to, the next time we get to meet up, and we're going to start the Jewel of Yavin arc as like an arc intertwined into the story kind of thing. So that's probably what I'd say is like homebrew, and then like sprinkle in some pre-made adventures here and there when there's like one that you're excited about running.
Very cool.
I highly recommend Jewel of Yavin. That's probably my favorite published adventure for the Fantasy Flight system.
I've owned the book for like a year and a half. I've been dying to run it. So I'm just like, if we're finally about to run it, and we're having a baby in a month, so I have to wait. Sad.
You have your own Jewel of Yavin.
Aww.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Alrighty, so the next question. So do you have a favorite player character that you have ever created or GM'd for?
Yeah, I'll say my favorite character was it's the one that I was a player in for my buddy's Dungeon World League of Legends campaign.
Cool.
I would say it was like the first character that I really like fleshed out, like who they were, their backstory, like their motivations, their goals. Like I felt like I was like in sync with that character. He was essentially like the equivalent of a druid, but instead of like shapeshifting into other animals, he could shapeshift into various like creatures and stuff. But my favorite character in League of Legends is a monster called Rek'Sai. He's kind of like a land shark character who just is, hunter, predator. And so he could transform into like one of her species. So that was really cool. So that was probably say that was that's probably my favorite character. His name was Vorzen, and his goal was to like eradicate the void connections to the Runeterra, the world. So it was a fun time.
Rek'Sai, and they are cool as
yeah,
hell.
they're dope. She came out. So I started playing League in 2013. She came out end of 2014, and like from day one, she was my favorite character. And then I quit playing League seriously in 2018, just because like the game made me mad, and I uninstalled it. I reinstalled it later to play with friends, but way more casually. I don't play ranked or anything anymore. But
I feel that that's the story of all League of Legends players. You're like, yes, 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 and then you're like, screw this game.
yeah, this sucks. yeah, no.
I just want to watch Arcane.
yeah. yeah. Well, what's really unfortunate though is that that's my favorite character I've ever played, and the rest of the party all wanted to like stay in the town and do like in town things, and my character's motivations made him like leave the town. And so I created a new character or whatever, and I was like, fine, because I need to have a character that's like motivations are aligned. So I made a character that was all about like he was an entrepreneur and ran multiple businesses within the town, so that way he'd stay in the town. And then like 4 sessions later, everybody else wanted to leave the town. So that was kind of annoying. So then, hey, Vorzen's back. So yeah.
Yeah, that's good advice though for anybody that wants to play these games. Yes, you have free reign to make choices as a character, but sometimes it's like, oh, everybody else wants to do this thing. I'm gonna come up with a reason for my character or a new one to do this thing.
Right, like is it feasible for this? Like when you know the character, it's like, would this character stay for any reason? No, he's on a mission. So. Yeah, we'll make a new one. So
right on.
But he was back for season 2 of that campaign, and so that was really fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you've kind of talked about it a little bit, but maybe we can get a summary of it. What do tabletop RPGs mean to you?
I think it's, for me at the moment, it's really just kind of a social outlet. So we moved away from Virginia 2 years ago and moved down here, and so like a lot of my friends that like I had a whole lot in common are still up there, like one of which being the GM that runs the other campaigns I mentioned. And so at the moment it's kind of like a social outlet. It feels like at the moment, for the most part, the only like social time I get is like at my church, like Wednesday nights or Sunday mornings or whatever, or like small groups. And so and those are fine, and like they're good for making friends and getting some social time with people. And I'm friends with some people in there, and we'll get together for kids' birthday parties or hanging out or something. But for the most part, like I really don't get a whole lot of like social time outside of those kinds of events. And so like tabletop RPGs right now they're like the time for me and my buddies to get together and like play a game and cut up and not have to like trade off with the spouse about watching the toddler run around. And it's just kind of like our time for ourselves. We get like 3 to 5 hours to just have fun and hang out and eat snacks and drink soda and and play games. So
yeah, I mean that's the best part about role-playing games, I think, is it's such a community, and you get to hang with your friends for Which, as adults, we just don't get enough time to hang with our friends.
Yeah, 100%. So, yeah.
That's what they don't tell you about growing up, man. Every now and then it's like, wait, I just want to get together with my buddies and play make-believe. And they're like, what are you talking about? Do your taxes. Pay your bills.
Yeah.
So.
It's like, can I go back to being 10 and just like waking up and playing Super Smash Brothers on the GameCube 4 hours like one morning?
Yeah.
Well, and that's what's great about role-playing games is that in some ways it's better than Super Smash Brothers. It's collaborative. You're making up worlds and stories and all these things with your buddies. But all right, man. I think that brings us to basically the end of the interview. So we've talked about it that you are the owner, creator, runner. You're the heralder. I don't know if that's a word that exists. Whatever. You are in charge of the Tabletop Empire YouTube thing
channel.
So, but where can channel? There you go. Where can the people find you?
Yeah. So the YouTube channel is youtube.com/@the Tabletop Empire. Or if you search Tabletop Empire on YouTube, the site will pull up. We just launched a new website last week. That is thetabletopempire.com. Just launched a merch site and all that fun stuff too. All of that is going to fund the channel campaign. So the more shirts and stuff we're able to sell, the more microphones we can buy for players.
Which is important.
So yeah, then in January we're launching like a channel campaign that's going to be Critical Role-esque kind of thing. That'll be weekly live stream, and then a few days later be available in video and podcast format. That's all going to be on the YouTube channel and on a Twitch channel. Twitch is the Tabletop Empire. But yeah, those are where you can find me.
Awesome. Well, yeah, real quick before we send you out back into real life, do you have any pitch for, I guess, what the campaign is?
Elevator pitch.
So it's going to be set at the moment. It's looking like it's going to be set after the Empire, so like a year or two after the second Death Star blows up. And right now, currently exploring having it be in the underworld of Coruscant.
Cool.
We literally talked about how the underworld of Coruscant is something we want to see explored. We talked about that last week.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So our eyes both lit up like Christmas.
I mean, if you have any book recommendations or anything besides like Clone Wars for me to go look into to like make sure that I'm, one, being lore accurate, and two, to like help inspire the campaign, let me know.
Well, it's funny. The biggest thing we talked about it in a section of the show where we were talking about our top 5 canceled Star Wars projects we want to see. And so there was a show called
3113 or whatever.
1313.
Yeah.
1313. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then also that there was going to be a live action show, Star Wars Underworld, that George was developing. So unfortunately, there isn't really a lot of lore. But there's a lot of lore that almost happened.
You could maybe pull a little bit from the Knights of the Old Republic game. I think they go down deep to like the planet space. It might not be Coruscant, but it's Coruscant. So maybe something from that. They have like the swoop races, which are also canon. I think Anakin does some swoop racing, or I guess it's pod racing. But like underground pod racing and swoop bike racing. Can I say soup again? Soup.
Awesome. Well, all right, man.
Yeah, the campaign's going to be called Dark Underworld. So
nice.
Cool. Star Wars Dark Underworld. Okay. Well, technically,
it's not going to be Star Wars Dark Underworld. It's going to be Tabletop Empire Dark Underworld.
Yes. Good.
Yeah, I don't want it to be confused for an official Star Wars story and get cease and desisted. That'd be bad.
Yeah, Disney, let us play games. But okay. All right, so listen up, all 31 subscribers at this point. Go like
button.
Tabletop Empire.
Hit the subscribe.
Hit
subscribe to
hit the
Force of
subscribe
Others.
button.
Notification button too.
Yeah.
Do all those things. Also do this for Tabletop Empire. Nate's a good guy. They've got, we want the Critical Role for Star Wars to exist. So whether you're a tabletop role-playing person or not, go check them out. Go give them all the love and all the good vibes in the Force. And yeah, on that note, man, thanks for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It was good talking to you guys. It was fun.
Absolutely.
We'll do it at some point soon. I don't know. Or maybe we'll have you on again if you'd be willing, and maybe we'll play the role-playing game.
If you need a, I have a pitch for you for a guest character for Matt and I. We'll play the two-headed announcer guy from the pod racing Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
We'll just be two heads.
Hey man, you joke.
That's a great idea, right?
We're
That's
not
awesome.
trying to pressure you.
No,
into
not at
doing
all.
this.
Not at all.
We would be down, but that would be. All right, man. Well, thanks for coming on the show, and the force of others will be with you always, and we'll see you soon.
Absolutely.
Sounds good. It's good talking to you guys.
Good talking to
See
you.
you later.
Okay. Well, we did it. We officially had
Yeah.
our first interview with someone we don't know from real life. Thanks for coming on the show, Nate. And while we're hitting our wrap-up beats, Zach, where can the people find you?
Yeah, I'm Zachus Faction on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. But the best way to find me is to email us at forceofothersradio@gmail.com. If you have any questions for us, we're more than happy to answer them on the podcast. And if the question's super good, we'll bring you on the show as well. But yeah, Matt, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and I don't know, probably other places at Matt Beutner. Beutner is the last name. Good luck with your spelling. Like Zach said, you can also email us questions, or you could comment questions. But send this podcast around. If you're coming over from Tabletop Empire, welcome. We hope you stay. Please let us know any questions you have, role-playing game related, Star Wars related, or, I mean, I don't know, I guess we can answer real-life questions, but I don't know why. Zach's an actor, I'm a theater teacher, but, you know, we can give you acting answers.
I'm a bartender too, so we can give you bartender questions.
Yeah, just let us know, I don't know, ask us how we would act in the Star Wars universe, and we'll tell you.
Yeah.
But anyway, thanks for hanging out on the show, and remember, the force of others will be with you.
Always. The Force of Others, a Star Wars podcast.